Today, on episode number 4 of Seattle Sports Scene, we will primarily focus on the Kraken and listener questions, with it being a pretty quiet week, as the Seahawks were on bye and the Sounders did not play a game. Stick around to the end to see what is happening in the collegiate sports scene around the state. Let's get into it.
A drive deep to right field, down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1.
Drops back. He's going to throw down the middle. He's got a man. The ball's caught.
Game over,
It is a
baby.
touchdown. The game is over.
With a shot blocked. Everly in front for Schwartz. They score! Hey, hey! What do you say? The ground early. Now the cross out to Nor. What a save by Fry!
What is going on, Seattle sports fans? Back again at the Seattle sports scene for another episode. We are super excited to be back at it, talking about all our favorite teams. Kind of a quiet episode this week. The Seahawks just coming off of their bye. They look forward to playing the 49ers. We'll get to that in just a moment. The Sounders are waiting on their first match, or their first and only match to begin for their second round of the playoffs. So really no news from them this week. So we'll mainly just be skipping over them today. Lots of news on the Kraken, a little bit of the Mariners that we'll cover at the end, kind of as we jumble it with what's going on at the rest of the teams that we just kind of briefly talk about at the end of the pod. So we're going to jump into the Seahawks here really quick. Just a few thoughts before we get into the Kraken. Looking ahead to that 49ers matchup, a team that we Seahawks fans hate. This 49ers team has just completely owned us for the last 3-4 years. Brock Purdy's completely undefeated against the Seahawks team. We want to mess that up. We want to get a win here, finally, and beat this Niners team. So looking ahead at what needs to happen and what can't happen against this Niners team. I can start off with a few thoughts of mine, and Seattle sports season here can jump in. First off, I didn't bring you in. How's it going? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. For everybody listening, we're running with some McDonald's Wi-Fi today, so no guarantees that I'm going to be present here this whole episode, but it's nice to be back. For me, this 49ers game is going to come down to turnovers. I think that the Seahawks can just, if they can just limit turnovers and win the turnover battle, then they're going to be able to have a chance in this game. Obviously, going to Santa Clara, you're going to have, Santa Clara. Yeah, they're going to have a difficult chance to win this game. The 49ers play really well at home, but they still have been struggling. And so you have a chance. However, you need to keep the ball on your side of the field. You need to keep the ball with your offense. You need the offense to get as many snaps as possible. And so that starts with creating turnovers on defense and limiting turnovers on offense for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like one frustrating side of that is the turnovers are 100% something you want to look out for in this game. And am I wrong to think that I'm a little bit shaken up and not so confident in the fact that Gino's going to have a flawless game, or even close to flawless game? I feel like we can expect probably a turnover from him. Our run game has been fantastic all year long. They've done a great job not dropping any balls. Obviously, the wide receiver core has had a few issues with some fumbles, but really those have just come in really intense situations, and it hasn't happened that often. But consistency, I think, is what you're getting down to. Is consistency, especially with Geno Smith. Can he prevent these turnovers from happening? And can we expect him to have a flawless game, or do you need to plan ahead for some turnovers that Geno's going to make?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting a lot for the offense as well, as they get two vital players back from injury. DK was a full participant in practice. Abe Lucas has been taken off the IR, or the physical unable to play list. So it's going to be huge to get Abe back. It's going to be the first time we've seen him really back officially and fully healthy, at least from what we know, in a long time. And DK being back is going to be huge for the offense. I think this is a game where I want to see personally from the Seahawks, I want to see a lot of quick, short passes, because against this dominant 49ers front, I don't think you're going to have a lot of time or opportunities to run the ball um, because we just haven't been able to create good run blocks right now. But I'd love to see some screens. I know Seahawks fans hate screens, and we've never been able to get screens to work. But I feel like screens, both to the running back and bubble screens for the wide receivers, could be really helpful in this game, as you can kind of pick up those yards that you're supposed to pick up running, but through the air, especially when you have playmakers on defense. I mean, on the outside. Like JSN, like DK being back, who have the ability to make guys miss, and especially K9 out of the backfield. If you can just get the ball to him in a little check down and let him go to work in open space, I think that's going to be a recipe for success for the Seahawks offense in this game.
Absolutely. And I think those short passes, like you say, are definitely a key to winning this game is you have those short passes that can create bigger opportunities for people like JSN, who's quick and nimble, or DK, who's big and can just bulldoze through people. I'm not going to put Tyler Lockett on that list, mainly because Tyler likes to just go down after getting a catch, which I understand at the age that he's at and really just his size compared to others. I'm one of those fans who is totally okay with him saving his body and just getting the catch and getting down, especially if you're still up there with your other wide receivers in terms of your total yards for the season. He's not falling behind or losing any ground because he's dropping down right away. I think it's also important to note you've got a couple of key players that are questionable for this Niners team. Christian McCaffrey obviously has been practicing this week, but it's a big question mark on if he will or will not play. So planning for him obviously is going to come into effect, but also planning for Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero, who both dismantled your defense the last matchup. Both of them ran for nearly 100 yards. Maybe not Mason because he went out pretty early in the game, but Juwan Jennings is questionable for this game. The Niners have some pretty good wide receiver depth, but that would be huge to not have to face him. George Kittle's questionable as well. Nick Bosa, big name, he's questionable, but I'm pretty sure he's more than likely to play this game. Javarius Ward also being questionable. That's really the biggest names that we have that are out or questionable. Hafunga obviously is out, but he was out, way earlier in the season. We didn't even play him last time we played. So these are some big names to have to be questionable or possibly out.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I don't think there's too much to cover besides that, because this is kind of going to be the same story as the first game. Um, I think that really just limiting turnovers, getting your guys back from injury, getting the ball to the playmakers in space. Um, that's what the game's going to come down to. I'm really interested to see what the defense is going to look like now after we release Dodson, and seeing if that's going to help the run defense contain at all. I'm skeptical. I know he wasn't the best fit for our defense. However, I don't think he was a bad player. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out and who really slots in for him. Um, what are your thoughts on the defense and what they need to do to kind of slow down this Niners offense that got whatever they wanted against us in the first game?
Very quickly on the point of linebackers, this is kind of it's something that most Seahawks fans have been saying all season long, but I deeply regret getting rid of Bobby Wagner. We are missing that veteran, you don't even call it veteran, that superstar presence in the linebacker position. And I miss him as a leader. I miss him as a player. That I remember just being stunned between Pete Carroll being, removed from the head coaching position, and on top of that, Bobby Wagner not returning. I was just stunned when both of those happened, but really missing Bobby right now. But in terms of the defense, obviously, yes, defense is going to be huge in this game. Brock Purdy's hot right now. The Niners' run game is always hot. They've got good wide receivers, as I said before. It's going to be a huge test, especially for the secondary, to see if they can, hold this Niners offense, especially in their passing game, to a minimum. Got to see some good plays here from Tariq Woolen, Witherspoon, obviously. Julian Love, I'd love to see him especially have a big game here, maybe get an interception. Even though Brock Purdy's hot right now and playing well, Brock Purdy is susceptible to turnovers. We've seen it from him. He's had some times where he's given multiple turnovers in one game. So the defensive line, whether they get sacks or not, needs to put pressure on Purdy, because Purdy does not play super well under pressure. So pressure on Purdy, that makes the game easier for your secondary as long as they can do their job. and you will hold this Niners team to, as low as you can. Obviously, this Niners team is a great offense. They're not going to get held to less than 10 points on our defense. But if your defense can do that, that opens up plenty of time for your offense to be on the field for a good amount of time and really figure things out, get that run game established, which is something they didn't do early in the year.
Yeah, I have really high hopes for Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen in this game. I think this is a huge prove-it game for them. Uh, we know that Reek's been dealing with a little bit of injuries, but coming off the bye, he should be fully healthy. Spoon has a chance to prove himself. He's had a bit of a quiet season after a fantastic year last year, and so this is an opportunity for both of them to just go out and own it and just lock down the San Francisco wide receivers. And they have the ability to do that. I still think Tariq Woolen is a fantastic corner, and we've seen glimpses of that this season, of his when he was a rookie, and we see glimpses of that same form. They just need to put it together for a full, complete 60 minutes, and hopefully they can do that against the Niners this week. Other than that, that's all that I got on the Seahawks. So go ahead and close out with your thoughts, and then we can head over to the Kraken.
That's really all I've got to with the Seahawks. Won a huge win here. Happy to have Seahawks football back, even though it's been a little bit of a rough year. But I'm excited. Let's beat these 49ers. Let's end this streak. Give Brock Purdy a loss to this. This is, please. We're begging you, please, Mike. All right, switching gears over to the Kraken. I've got a pretty decent amount of stuff this week. It was also somewhat of a quiet week for the Kraken in some ways. They only played 2 games. Both of them were a win. They were fantastic wins. Since our last episode, they've played 2 games, and they won both of them, defeating the Vegas Golden Knights in overtime, a thrilling overtime game, 4-3, the Kraken's favorite score to win games by, and the Columbus Blue Jackets in a comeback game, they win 5-2. Before I get to the good, the bad, and the extra is what I'll say. First thing about those games, that Vegas game completely caught me off guard. I went into this game with very low expectations, and quite a few, I was really had not that much faith that they were going to play well against that team. The Golden Knights are playing pretty well. The only question mark that the Golden Knights have right now is goaltending. Ilya Samsonov and Aiden Hill are not playing well this season, and this is what's hindering the Golden Knights' ability to be at the top of the division where the LA Kings are right now. And the Kings have some question marks at goaltender too, but that's another conversation. So the Kraken go down 2-0 at the end of the first. It's looking like the last couple of Kraken games we've seen where they're just struggling to get points on the board, and just struggling really to just get anything going. It was really frustrating to watch and witness. You come out of the first intermission, Kraken get a point on the board. It was just super thrilling to see this comeback happen. I know I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit, but I hate this Golden Knights team, and so that was really awesome to see them have this comeback. Really quickly, just want to make sure that I'm doing the right. Yep, Brandon Tanev, that was it. Brandon Tanev scores that first goal just before the end of the first period. To correct myself here. He scores another one in the second period, kind of in that middle spot, about 13 minutes left in the second. Tanev, obviously somebody who's putting in the work after being on the hot seat for a while. More on that later. Oliver Bjorkstrand puts in a goal, kind of a weird ricochet off of Aiden Hill that he ends up just chipping in right over him, and the Kraken go up 3-2. Alex Pietrangelo unfortunately nets a goal, which Kraken fans I saw everywhere were like, oh, this is it. This is where the Golden Knights do their annual comeback against the Kraken, where we go into overtime. And I think you all remember that game at the end of last year when Eichel had that breakaway goal that in my opinion, I think killed the Kraken season last year. They never recovered after that game. We scored probably the best goals of our season, in that game. A lot of them were fantastic. And that game ended, and we ended up dropping 6 of our next 8. The team never got the spark back. Everyone looked like they were playing with their head down. So this was a huge game to win. Jared McCann gets that overtime goal on Aiden Hill. He completely dismantles him with a forehand backhand and just chips that puck right over his glove. And Aiden Hill ends up falling over in an attempt to get it. So Jared McCann just showing his skill once again, and really just showing why he's arguably the best player on this Kraken team. Um, so that was a fantastic game to beat a rival that we dislike so much. We then move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets in a 5-2 comeback game. Just brushed through this one. Don't need the whole breakdown. Kraken played an abysmal first period. That was one of the worst first periods I've seen of the entire year, which makes the rest of the game so much better. But that was just an abysmal first period. I don't have the numbers on hand, but I'm pretty sure the Kraken were outshot like 15-3 in the first period. It was just terrible. Minus the Boston Bruins game where we had no shots on goal. It was just a terrible period. So, but the Kraken fight back obviously against a struggling Blue Jackets team. And goal after goal after goal starts to rain down. Ty Cartier scores. Brandon Tanev scores. Ellie Tolvanen 10 seconds later scores on the power play. Will Borgen nets his first goal of the season later. And once again, Jared McCann, he gets the empty net, and he gets another goal. So that was just fantastic to see from this team. The Kraken just wrapped up against the Blackhawks about 10 minutes ago. As we are recording this on, it's Thursday, right? I'm losing track of the week. On Thursday night. 3-1 victory. I haven't fully collected my thoughts from the game. That might be something I cover next episode, but Joey played well. Peter Mrazek played incredible, the goaltender on the Blackhawks side. He's the sole reason why the Kraken did not win 8-1 tonight. We had so many good opportunities, and he made incredible saves. Or we just got unlucky and the puck tipped wide or bounced off the post or something. You know, Kraken shots. They like to make it look good, but not quite get in there. So 3-game win in a row. I'm super excited about where this Kraken team is going, how they're starting to kind of look like they've picked up after that loss streak, and win streaks and loss streaks happen throughout the season. I wasn't panicked after this loss streak, but it just feels good to get 3 wins in a row and kind of get back up there in the standings. So before I move on to the bad, the good, and the extra, what are your thoughts on those 3 games that we just witnessed?
Yeah, so a little bit less about the games and more just about what we've seen from the Kraken through the first 17 games now. I think we kind of know maybe that this team might just be a streaky team. There's teams that tend to win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose 1, lose 2, whatever. This Kraken team so far through 17 games has been insanely streaky. And I kind of have 2 thoughts surrounding that. Because we saw they started off a loss, a win, a loss. And then from there, they won 3 straight and then lost 3 straight. Then they won 1 and then they lost 4. And now they've won 3. And so they kind of are doing this thing where they bounce back and forth. While I don't think that's going to continue the whole season, it's a little bit of an alarming trend as we're almost a fourth of the way through the season here coming up. However, one really promising trend that I've seen develop from the Kraken, and this is something that I take from baseball. Baseball, with the season being so long, you're going to have things that go wrong. You're going to have stretches of games where you don't play well, where you need to just be able to dial in and stop the losing streak. And one thing that the Kraken have been really, really good at, and this is the same for the NBA as well, with the season being 82 games, what you need to do is set the tone. And the Kraken this year have been really good at setting the tone. They just haven't been able to do well at continuing. As we can see, with the exception of the first game, which just was a one-off, where it was just a home game and then we immediately went on the road. After that first game that we lost, they immediately bounce back, first game of the road trip, win it. And even though they lose 1, they win 1, they come back home. Do you know, first game of the homestand, they win it. They win it in convincing fashion against a tough Flyers team. You play out that homestand, you end that homestand on a 3-game losing streak. It's looking a little bit tough. What do? First game of the road trip, you win it. The Kraken have been so good this year at winning the first set, whether that be the first road game of a road trip or the first home game of a homestand. And they do that again. They win the first game of that road trip and then they lose the next 4. All to 3 of which who are pretty good teams, if not all 4 of them extremely good teams, between the Maple Leafs, the Senators, the Bruins, and the Avalanche. Those are all good hockey teams. And so That's tough. You lose 4 in a row on a road trip. It's going to happen in a year. What do you come? You bounce back at home, started the homestand, big long homestand. What do? You set the tone. They beat the Golden Knights. And you can see that because of that Golden Knights win, that big emotional win in overtime, they set the tone and they're able to win the next two against lesser opponents. And so that trend to me means more than the winning streak, losing streak, because the ability of a team to just be able to counter negative momentum at the reset points is something that's really positive and something that a lot of good teams and a lot of great teams are able to do well. Now, with that being said, I'd love for the Kraken to be able to not wait till they get back home to reset that. I'd love for them to be able to do that after maybe 2 games on a losing streak. But even so, just the ability to do that against a really good Golden Knights team was so promising for me.
No, absolutely. And being a streaky team can obviously not be the greatest thing because you're typically a team who's going to go 500 if you're winning some, losing some, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. The Kraken are setting the tone, and it's all about just figuring out how to keep that tone going. And I have some more thoughts later on in the extra part of this that I'll touch on that later. But no, I like those thoughts. Do you have any more?
No, let's go ahead. Let's get into the bad stuff here before we come back
All
with the
right.
good stuff.
I'm going to try to see if I can continue to keep doing this a little bit for those of you that are for our listeners. I'm going to try to either have points that I'm going to do, or I'm going to try to go the bad, the good, the extra. So a couple of things bad wise. Second, sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so obviously, Grubauer comes off a little bit of an injury currently that he has had. There are rumors going around about his horse possibly kicking him and he hit his head and something happened with his chest. We don't have an actual report on that. It's just rumors that have been flying around. And it seems like the rumors have been confirmed based off of certain reporters and even certain Kraken admins kind of reposting stuff regarding horses and like kicking. So anyway, that's a whole rabbit trail, but that is potentially what happened to Grubauer. But pre horse kicking injury, Gru has not had a good year. And this is a conversation that we've had a lot, that everyone's had a lot, and people have spent lots of time on. I have not talked too much about it yet, but he is unfortunately near the bottom of the goalies lists, rankings, whatever you want to call it. Even in terms of backups. Obviously, he's not the starter. Joey Daccord has won the starting job, but your backups are, if nothing else, supposed to just be solid. Don't need to be making any insane moves. Don't need to be standing on their head. They just need to, if they don't have a quality start, that's okay. As long as they can keep the team in the game by making whatever necessary saves are needed to be made until the offense can score, and then keeping that lead, obviously. That is a solid backup. You're not doing anything completely out of the ordinary or making these flashy desperation saves like we've seen Joey make a few times. Brew has not been able to do that yet. Sitting at 1-5-0 through 6 games started. He's got a 3.27 goals allowed average per game. And an 877 save percentage, and his GSAX is negative 1.3. You have to start questioning what to do about him in terms of there's only a few options you can do. Obviously, you have him locked down for, I think, 2 more years. I'm pretty sure his contract doesn't expire for 2 more years. Your option is to buy out his contract, which is expensive and not in the greatest for the team, seeing as you're going to be eating up some cap space doing that. But that's one of the only options you have for moving on from Gru. If not, you really have to start looking at seeing if you can possibly hold a trade, but I don't know if anyone's going to be wanting to trade for Gru. So kind of a difficult situation with Grubauer right here, but he's just missing a lot of shots he should be saving. I know the defense isn't doing the best at helping him out as much as we'd like them to, but when you're sitting at 58 of 74 goalies who have played a game, or at least 60 of those goalies have played at least the amount of games that he has, sitting at 58 is not a good look for Grubauer. So the other piece of bad news, Will Borgen has slumped back into his state of getting pushed around and out-hustled and out-physicaled. even though we had a great streak and everyone seems like they're playing better, in especially the Columbus game, both goals on the Blue Jackets kind of fall on him. The first goal is a tip off of Will Borgen. He's screening Joey Decord while not really needing to be in the position that he's at. Um, he doesn't need to be as close to Decord as he is. He can be out more, but he kind of screens the shot from Decord and it goes off of his hip and into the goal. Just really unfortunate positioning, which obviously leads to a goal for the Blue Jackets. And then just a few minutes later, he misses a routine poke check and is positioned very poorly. He's behind the player rather than in between the player and the net, and completely misses a poke check on a redirected shot into the net above Joey's shoulder. So, Morgan has been struggling this year. He's kind of roller coastered. Some games he's fantastic, and other games he's in all the wrong places at all the wrong times. But this defense, it seems, is trying to learn this new system and is taking it the hardest. We've seen a lot of struggling with this defense in terms of positioning and just really playing the fundamentals of defense. So I do think, though, that the rest of the defense is cleaning it up well. Obviously, Montour's playing well. He's a very, very talented defenseman. Vince Dunn, I'm sure will adapt right into it when he comes back from his injury. Adam Larson's done phenomenal as of late. Jamie Alexiak still playing solid. So, which actually this perfectly segues me into my good news portion of this. The good news, the offense is reviving itself. 2 games in a row where the Kraken are down 2-0, and an electric play turns into a breakaway or a net front shot, and both go in and turn the tide for the Kraken. The Columbus game in particular, they score 3 goals in 5 minutes in that second period. And the second and third goal, as I said before, just being 10 seconds apart from each other. So this offense is starting to find ways to create plays and opportunities that lead to momentum-changing goals. Or even just hits or opportunities. Like the anticipation begins to build up, and that builds up in the players too, and it helps them play better, maybe even focus better. For some of them, especially the younger players, they get a little rockier and shakier. Anxiety and anticipation really makes you nervous, but some of these veteran players feed on that and get energy from it and just get super excited. So on another side of good news, Joey, obviously, still playing freaking crazy good hockey. I don't have his stats from tonight updated, but as of before tonight's game against the Blackhawks, he had a .916 save percentage with a .271 goals allowed average, and his GSAX, ladies and gentlemen, positive 6.5. He is saving way more goals than expected, that means, and that puts him at 6th in GSAX leaders, which is huge, because while that stat's not talked about always very much, it is a very, very big accomplishment to have a positive, like your average is going to be positive 1 or 2 at this point of the season. So great to see that from him. I'm looking at a chart here on NHL Edge. It lets you see some like advanced statistics and stuff. I'm sure some of you have seen the commercials for it. Joey Decord on goals against in every location on the ice. There's like a little chart. In the future, maybe I can do a screen share and show you guys. We don't have that technology set up yet. This chart shows me all the places on the ice that people are scoring goals on him from, and Joey has not allowed any from behind the net or really out, kind of in a V pattern. All the way out on the blue line, he's given up 2. I'm not going to go down the entire list, but the only spot where he's giving up the most goals is in this these high danger scenarios, either in his crease in the blue or just outside the blue. So part of that is rebounds that he's giving up, but the other part of it is the defense allowing people to get in too close, allowing people to fight for that puck, and obviously Joey's arms and legs can only be at so many places at once, and the puck just gets in. So if the defense can really clean up on getting pucks out of the crease, out of those high danger slots, and not allowing people to out physical them for that positioning in front of Joey could, put up Vezina numbers this season, and he already is. So really good to see that, and to see really that just he's playing fantastic, only allowing goals from just really one spot of the ice. And the team can plan for that, and they can help him out there. Let's see, buzzing through just a little bit. Brandon Tanev is a huge scoring piece right now. I got more on that later as well. McCann is just a huge contributor and scorer. Eberle is putting in the assist work as well. Monty's obviously a force of nature. He's playing well. As I said already, Larson's in the right places at the right time. He's playing well. It looks like this team still needs some time to play some tighter, more aggressive defense, but they're cleaning up very well. A thought I had, and this is kind of relating to being that what was the word that you used? Not streaky when you talked about taking advantage of the first game of a road trip or homestand.
Just like neutralizing.
Well, no, but you were talking about when they win the first game of the homestand. They're setting the tone. That's what I was
Yeah,
looking for.
setting the tone.
Yeah, thank you. Had a complete brain fart there. The Firebirds were a lot like that in these last 2 years. Obviously, Dan Battlesma being their coach, they would set the tone on these road games or homestands, and it would carry into the next few games. Also, seeing as some of our goals have felt very Firebirdsy, I guess I'll say. If those of you who watch the Columbus game, Will Borgen's goal, it's a transition goal, which is a very Firebirds way to score. On I believe it's Oliver Bjorkstrand gets the puck down the ice, gets a little pass to Borgen in stride, and he just, slings one right past the goalie, and it goes right in. It's a very Firebirds-like goal. So super great to see that kind of come together, because that Firebirds team the last 2 years was good. And if that can carry over into this team, that's very promising to see. Okay, that is all of the bad and the good. Do you have any thoughts before I kind of dip into just extra news? I'm probably going to fly through here. No? All right. Shaking his head, no. Okay. First off, little trade alert here. Everyone, I'm sure, already knows about this. The Kraken made a trade to Vancouver this past week for former Kraken Daniel Sprong in return for future considerations. Sprong is currently stone cold to start the year. He's just sitting at 1 goal and 2 assists and 3 points in his lone goal coming off of a power play. I was watching that game when it happened. It was a nice wrister from the right side of the faceoff circle. Regarding the trade, Kraken general manager Ron Francis said, he's a guy that scored 20 goals for us, so we felt like he was worth the gamble. We know we can use him up and down the lineup, and we know we can use him on the power play. He's got pace to his game, and he knows our team is familiar with our system. So really good to see that Ron Francis trusts this decision in going to get is confident in this decision in going to get Spronger. Obviously, Spronger knows the team. He's scored 20 goals with us before, which is great. And he's been a good depth piece for us. So that's really a good pickup for this team in those terms. I think Ron not only brings Sprong in to gamble and hope that he helps the team's offense, but also I think he brings him in to add a threat to the guys who are on the hot seat right now. Like, if you look at some of these players who are on the hot seat, I'll start with Brandon Tanev, who I said I was going to talk about later. Who we've heard a lot of trade rumors about right now. He has been playing insanely well. Since the Sprong trade, he has 3 goals in 2 games. After tonight's game with the empty net, he has 4 goals in 3 games. He's been the best penalty killer on the team. And he's near the top of the league, or he's climbing the charts in the league for shot blocks, which is phenomenal to see from him. You look at Yanni Gord. Hasn't played so great. He's leading the team in penalty minutes still. He's got only 4 assists and 4 points in 16 games. And up until the Blue Jackets game, he had not recorded a point since the Flyers game on October 17th. But what I will say about Yanni is he's getting into plays and he's trying to make stuff happen. And he was not doing that before the Sprong trade, not at least to the extent that he is now. These players are fighting for that spot because they know that Sprong poses a threat to their spot in putting them on the bench or them getting traded from this team. Andrei Burakovsky isn't really on the hot seat since he really has a no-trade clause, but he is on the hot bench as he could become a healthy scratch if he keeps playing the way he's playing. I don't think the Kraken will do that, seeing as much as we're paying him, but it is an option if you're not playing well. I'm not sure how or why some fans are defending him, because he's just been awful. Like, he's struggling with his puck handling. His passes are very hit or miss. He does lead the team in assists, or is near the top 3 for assists. I think he's sitting at 7 right now. But he and Borgen are leading the team with turnovers or pucks lost or given up. He has the worst plus minus at -6. He has no goals. And up until last night in the Blue Jackets game, or not last night, excuse me, up until the Blue Jackets game, he had not recorded a game since point since the Montreal game. And again, not a goal, an assist. He slips and falls a lot, which is, frustrating to see at this level of the NHL. And really just dangles the puck too much and just can't corral the puck. His defense has also not been good, which is why he's just, I hate to say it because I have loved him at times, but he's just been absolutely useless out there. And it's really, really frustrating to see him get minutes when he's just kind of a mess out there on the ice. I'm unsure of why Bjorky was the one who got scratch when we did have that healthy scratch a few games ago, seeing as he was the one who's having a pretty decent start to the year. And really good pressure, and seeing his solid defending too. And pair that with 4 goals, 3 assists, and a plus minus of +3, and only 2 penalty minutes or 1 penalty. He's played pretty solid. So I was a little bit confused to see why he had been the one to take the healthy scratch. Okay, that was a lot of Kraken stuff. I did promise some of you guys, those of you who follow me, that we'd have some Kraken news, and there you have it. There is my my bad, good, and extra. I'll hit you guys with the stat leaders for the season, and then I will let you have some of your final thoughts, man. Your point leader is still Jared McCann, sitting at 19. Your goal leader is still Jared McCann, sitting at 8. Your assist leader is, yes, you guessed it, Jared McCann at 11 assists. Your penalty minutes leader, this one should be a no-brainer, Yanni Gourde, 30 penalty minutes. And your plus-minus leader is Jared McCann. This man is just showing what a superstar he is for this team, and I love watching him. He's playing on another level right now. So, before we move on, do you have, and before I close it out, do you have anything to add about the Kraken?
No, not much. I'm just encouraged from what I've saw over the last 3 games, but other than that, you basically covered everything else.
Awesome, sweet. Well, I know that you guys asked a lot of questions this week, so once again, thank you. You guys do this every single week. And we are going to start trying to see if we can dedicate segments to questions from listeners. So, if you're looking for the listener questions section, because I know some of you skip through these episodes, we're here. We're going to be answering some of your questions. Do you want to start off with the Seahawks one, and then we can kind of dip? We have a lot of Seahawks and a lot of Kraken, and then a couple of fun ones. So we'll start off with the Seahawks one here. Why don't you go ahead? Or you want me to read that off to you, or do you want to read it off?
Yeah, I got it. I think today we'll answer 1 question about the Hawks, 2 about the Kraken, and then 1 fun question to wrap it out. The Hawks question that I thought was most intriguing to answer this week, someone submitted it to me on my page. The question was, do you think that firing Pete Carroll was the right move now that we're halfway through the Hawks season? And for me, honestly, I still think it's just a little bit too soon to tell. I think that to really fairly judge a head coach, you have to have them for a season, and you have to let them have the opportunity to kind of get their own draft class and their own set of guys. Because a lot of the guys that are in here still are still Pete Carroll's guys that he drafted, that he wanted. And so for me, I want to see another year of what he wants in the draft. I want to see, and we see that a lot as we continue to trade. We're really active in the trade market, trading guys around on defense because they just want to find people that fit their scheme. And so they're just experimenting with anybody right now to figure out who fits their scheme. And I think, but as of right now, I'd still say that firing Pete Carroll was the right move, just because we needed change in Seattle. Whether Pete Carroll was the reason for that struggle or not, I don't know about that reason yet, but we needed change, and that was one of the major things that the front office could change about the situation.
Yeah, this is a interesting topic for me because I feel like for the team it was probably the right decision to make, but personally, I kind of wish that Pete could have finished out his last. I think he had 1 more year left on the contract that we had him. I kind of wish he could have finished out his last year, but I'm not going to fight about that. I think it was time, and I do think that it was healthy for the team to be able to have that transition. And I think it's really time to just start the new era. Even though I love Pete, I think he's one of the greatest coaches ever. And I do wish that he could have finished out his last year, but obviously it's not what the Seahawks wanted to do. So, all right, I've got a question, Kraken question here. This one is: what should the expectations be for this year? Should it be another rebuild year or a wild card push? The Kraken are in a weird state right now where we are halfway dipped in the wild card race and halfway dipped in the rebuild years. We have players in Coachella who are ready to be playing at the NHL level. Koff, Logan Morrison, Ryan Winterton, and a few others. Gustav Olofsson, Victor Olofsson. Lots of players who are ready to play at the NHL level. And they're you can bring them up and you would not go to the wild card. I love all those players, but you are not making the playoffs with Ryan Winterton playing second line minutes or third line minutes. The idea there would just be to get the young guys some reps, and really just to kind of start that process, obviously, of the rebuild. You would be tanking in that scenario. You're trying to get a pick. I don't think the Kraken are in that position right now. You have Joey Daccord in a prime spot right now where he's playing insane. You just signed him to a pretty decent contract. You don't want to be eating up those contract years. You got him for a good deal, too. And you don't want to be eating up those contract years on a good deal on a rebuild. So, especially because of Joey Daccord, I think you don't try to tank with this team. You have a lot of players who are fourth and third line players who you can get some mid to low picks for, or some depth pieces, which is why you see Daniel Sprong coming back. But you have a lot of players you have the opportunity to trade if you wanted to. It hurts to call out the names, but Brandon Tanev, Yanni Gord. You'll have Burakovsky leaving in a year or two. You'll have Gru has 2 years left on his contract. Like, this team is a couple of bad early on contract decisions away from being able to grab whoever they want and to add on to that, because we're going to have so much cap space free up when Gord, Burakovsky, and Grubauer are gone, and Tanev, assuming they all don't re-sign. Obviously, I don't know what they're going to do. So, I think you have to push for the wild card. You can't rebuild. What will it be? I don't know. If they don't play well, they could just try to tank for the highest pick that they can get. But I think it should be a wild card push. That's kind of just my thoughts on that. Do you have anything to add on that question?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what we saw from this team and this front office in the free agency period this last offseason shows that for them, they want to be in the wild card push again. Going out and spending so much money like they did. I think this roster, while not the most talented, and yes, it does lack like a superstar point production player, it's not a untalented roster. Like, you have a lot of really good NHL hockey players in Seattle right now. And I think that they should and they can make a wild card push because this is a talented team. We've seen that. We've seen their ability to beat good teams at home and on the road. And so for me, I think this is definitely a year that the Kraken are trying to push for the wild card. And while it is early still, with it almost being a fourth of the way through the season, right now they're only 2 points back of being third place in the division as well. So that's just something to note as well. While it's still way too early to talk about standings and look at where they stand in the standings, that's just an interesting note. Going into the next question for you, it's another Kraken question, but predict the next superstar that you think will be available and what year we may get ourselves a superstar.
If you had asked me this question a year ago, I would have had so many answers for you, but everyone got re-signed to contracts, and I don't know when most of them end. So in terms of when the next superstar will be available, I'm not entirely sure. And really, if they're a superstar, it probably means that they're going to be quickly signed by the team that they were just playing for. I mean, you see people like Mitch Marner and Quentin Byfield who both just signed contracts, William Nylander, who all just signed contracts with their teams, and they are superstars. And they very quickly were signed to contracts as soon as possible. One of the exceptions being Jeremy Swayman, wasn't signed to a contract very fast, which is kind of biting the Bruins in the butt right now as he is very out of practice as he missed all of training camp. and he's not having a good start to the year. So, the Kraken obviously, like a lot of Seattle teams so far, haven't gone out and gotten the superstar yet. And part of the reason is because with the expansion team, they're in a difficult situation right now where they do not really have the cap space to go out and get a superstar to pay somebody like that. But really, you have players in your system who already could be superstars. You're really hoping you've got people in the NHL. You got your Sidney Crosbys, have the Evgeny Malkins, your Alex Ovechkins, have your now Dylan Stromes or you TJ Oshie's. Every superstar in this league has their buddy. Nathan McKinnon has Mikko Rantanen or Cale Makar. Connor McDavid has Leon Draisaitl. Everyone has that player who helps them be the superstar that they are. There's duos. There's in very few cases, there's not really just that one player who stands out and he's doing all the work. That's why you're seeing Bedard struggle in Chicago. He hasn't found his duo yet. He hasn't found that person who's going to help elevate his play and who's really going to play even close to his level. The Sharks are set up pretty well because they've got Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini starting at the same time. They already have so much chemistry together. They're making some great plays. So obviously for us, that's probably Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. It could also be Matty Beniers and Ryan Winterton, or Shane Wright and Ryan Winterton. Who knows? But Beniers and Wright, I think, have the highest potential to be that duo. You could see somebody come out of nowhere and be great. Ben Myers is playing great in the AHL, and he played great in the preseason. He could be that that person, or he could be a third added to the mix. I think in terms of when we get ourselves a superstar, I don't know. It really depends on how the contracts go in the future. It could be 3, 4, 5 years when we're trying to make a push for the Stanley Cup, because that's when you do it. That's when you go get the superstars, when you're making that Stanley Cup push. Right now, as much as I hate to say it, the Kraken are not a Stanley Cup team. We may not even make the playoffs, even though I want to. But you go get that superstar when you want that cup. Or you have your superstars ready in Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, whoever else it could be. You could even see Matty and Jared McCann have great chemistry. They had a really good goal tonight against the Blackhawks and almost connected for 2 more goals that looked exactly the same. So if that chemistry can keep going, maybe McCann is Beniers' Draisaitl or Mikko Rantanen. So that's kind of my thoughts on that Kraken getting a superstar.
Yeah, for me, I still 100% believe in Shane Wright. Like, we have to remember the
Absolutely.
fact that he's still 20 years old. He's
Mhm.
only 20 years old. Like, it's really his first real season in the NHL. Obviously, the point production this year, you would love to see more points out of him to this point in the season. But that being said, this kid is so young. He's so talented. You took him with the 4th pick in the draft. The expectation is kind of that he is your superstar. He was advertised to the fans as a superstar. He was talked about in the draft as a superstar. Like, this kid still has the potential to be one of the best players in the NHL. And I think we just have to be patient and continue to wait as he learns how to play in the NHL, as he learns how he fits in the NHL, as he learns how to play with his teammates on this team. I think Matty Beniers is also a superstar. I think the situation's a little bit different than him because for me, I still just don't believe that at the end of the day, he's going to be someone that puts up an insane amount of points. I still think that his value is in other places than just point production. But that doesn't mean you're not a superstar. But Shane Wright, he has the potential to put up huge numbers in the point category and to be a really special and talented player in the NHL. And so I think a lot of Kraken fans have, at least casual Kraken fans, have kind of written him off a little bit and kind of forgotten about what the hype and the expectations surrounding him was and still is, in my opinion.
I 100% agree with that take, and I'm so glad you said that. I feel like Kraken fans have forgotten what the hype around Shane Wright is supposed to be. He's supposed to be that player that we're looking forward to seeing him grow. We're looking forward to seeing him like develop. I'm so excited for him, and I was, while he was in Coachella, I am now. I really think he has potential to be just a fantastic player. And if you had told me, I mean, look at Matty Beniers, wins the Calder Cup in his first year, then has a very abysmal sophomore season, and now he's kind of getting back into the groove a little bit, starting out pretty good. He's got 4 goals right now, actually maybe 5 after tonight. Shane Wright, obviously, like you said, he's 20 years old. And if you had told me, would you rather have your player in his rookie year play bad or just, kind of settle in and then in their second year play better and then carry that on? Yes, absolutely. Even though he's not going to win the Calder, like that's okay. I would rather have a player take a year to settle in and then get going than have them get nothing going or get something going and then lose that and have to try to refine his motivation and his ability to kind of, get the wheels moving. So, yeah. You, yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one last thought about Shane Wright. It's like a lot of the time the expectation for people with this amount of hype that Shane Wright had when we drafted him is that you come in and you immediately know. And even
Mm-hmm.
players as talented as Shane Wright in any sport, you see it in basketball and football, in the NFL, some guys it just takes a little bit longer for them to click. They don't have that moment where they just come in, they instantly dominate. But you see that those guys can still blossom in to all pros in the NFL. Like sometimes it just doesn't click, especially when you're as young as Shane Wright is. So to all the Kraken fans out there, continue to have patience, continue to believe in him, continue to support him, because that's the best thing we can do as fans to help his development. Just be there and cheer loud for him and support him online, don't spread negativity. But this kid, still, the sky's the limit for him. Kind of closing up the listener question section. Someone asked me directly, this is a question more for me, but my thoughts on the BYU football season this year. Obviously, it's been amazing. They are so exceeding expectations. Being where we are right now with probably going to the Big 12 championship game and maybe the college football playoff. My thoughts on the team, they're a very talented team. They're extremely well coached. Like, I think that Kalani Sitake, that's the coach of BYU, he is these guys so motivated. And the thing that makes this BYU team great isn't star power, it's mindset. And these guys are able to focus in on every single game. They have a saying where they treat every game like the Super Bowl. And all their press conferences, all the players and the coaches, they all just say, we're preparing for Super Bowl number 10 this weekend. And that's the mindset that gets good teams to great places. And I think we just continue to see that, how much of a belief that players have in each other. We've gone a little bit lucky, I won't lie. Like, some things have had to go our way. But when you have the amount of belief that these guys have in each other, like, you tend to have lucky things go your way because you never feel out of the game. Like, a minute left, fourth down, needing a touchdown, they just believe in each other still, even to that last down. And so far this season, that belief hasn't failed them. And so I still think that they can go and achieve some special things this season. So a little bit of luck. They're very talented. They're very well coached. But really, I think that it's the mindset that really is getting them to where they need to be. A little bit of a final question here. Favorite other podcast? For me, I really only listen to one or two other podcasts. I listen to a podcast called The Ringer. It's about the NBA. I really like that podcast. I think the guys that do that do a great job. Their production is good. Their conversation is good. They're funny. They keep their guys engaged. And then, being a BYU fan, I listen to a BYU podcast called BYU Sports Nation. It's very similar to this podcast. It's kind of what inspired me to design how we designed this one, and the fact that they cover all BYU sports, and just like all information in one place. And so I'd say that's probably my favorite one, and a lot of the inspiration that I get for this podcast comes from them. So shout out to BYU Sports Nation.
Uh, Gosh, I listen to so many podcasts. I listen to political podcasts, crime podcasts, fun podcasts, sports podcasts. I'm gonna stick to sports podcasts for the sake of this show. I would say that I listen to two in particular that I love. Um, Emerald City Hockey is one that I love. Shout out to them. They also cover the Seattle Kraken. They do a fantastic job covering them. I love the way that they run their show, and they're great about getting into stats and really digging deep into like answering the questions at the roots of this Kraken team and looking ahead and seeing how contracts can affect the team and the whole thing. They do a fantastic job with that show, so shout out to them. And then Empty Netters, Dan and Chris do a fantastic job with that show. They were, along with Emerald City Hockey, a huge inspiration for me to start this podcast. I've spent hours at work, falling asleep, driving, listening to their show, and the amount of entertainment that they bring into that show. Like, they have just the funniest personalities. Their show is just very, very, just laid back, fun. They've got all their little slang for stuff. It's just a fun show to listen to. And they cover hockey mainly. I think I already said that, but no, they do a great job just covering all news around the league. So I would love to, have a show that be somewhat like theirs. But that's a good question. I love fun questions like that. So again, thank you guys so much for sending in so many questions. We had just a few we couldn't get to, but it's a lot better than we've done in the past. So I think we got around the state stuff to talk about before we close it out really quick. So you want to run us down the list?
Yeah, really quick, just to wrap up. A little bit of news on the Mariners. Dave Sims, TV voice of the Mariners, announced today that he's leaving to go to the Yankees. It makes sense. He's a West Coast guy. That's where he's from. Congratulations to him. He will be missed greatly. But it makes sense, and it's a fantastic opportunity for his career. Other Mariners news. Alec Boehm is in trade rumors and linked to the Mariners a lot. I think he'd be a great fit. He's a fantastic third baseman. He was the starting third baseman for the NL in the last year's All-Star game. He's going to be expensive, but at this point, I think you kind of have to pay that because that's where you're going to get the upgrade at third base and in the infield. Mariners are also rumored to have the second best chance at Roki Sasaki, only behind the Dodgers. Obviously, they're probably going to get him, but I think the Mariners have a great pitch that they can sell to him. UW football lost this weekend at number 6 Penn State on the road. They got demolished 35-6. Unfortunately, this was just a case of good team, bad team. Huskies started off strong, but ultimately their drive resulted in a missed field goal. The Nittany Lions took that momentum and ran and never looked back. Will Rogers ends up getting benched in the second half for the freshman. And he actually looked pretty good, leading scoring drives in 2 out of the 3 possessions that he got. The Huskies will be back at home on Friday night for their blackout game against UCLA. WSU football improved to 8-1 and is now ranked 18th in the college football playoff rankings after a dominant 49-28 victory over Utah State. There wasn't really ever a doubt in this game. The Cougars look to continue their chance at a playoff berth this week against New Mexico on Saturday night. Basically, they need to move up probably 6 to 7 more spots in the next 3 weeks to realistically have a chance being in the top 12 to make the college football playoff. Since they don't get to play a championship game, it's going to be a little bit tough to do. UW basketball lost to Nevada on the road, but bounced back to improve to 2-1 with the home win against Seattle Pacific. WSU basketball destroyed Idaho, improved to 3-0, and they have a huge kind of early season test this week against an undefeated Iowa team in Iowa. So that's going to be a huge game for them. Gonzaga moved up to number 4 in the AP poll after 2 great ones to start the season against Baylor and Arizona State. They will play Friday against UMass Lowell. And that is all that happened around the state. And that's all that I got for this episode. Any closing remarks?
That's a lot of news. Just a shout out to Dave Sims. Thank you for 18 years of incredible broadcasting for the Mariners. I have not been a Mariners fan that long. I've also barely been alive for that long, so I kind of have an excuse there. But I wish him the best of luck with the Yankees. I know that's close to his hometown. I know that's close to his home team, and he'd love to go announce for them before he eventually retires. So really great for him. Again, thank you, and I wish him the best of luck. That is all from us this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Looks like we're about going to hit our mark that we usually like to get to of an hour. So great to see that all coming together. So keep an eye out this week for some more questions regarding the podcast, regarding all of our teams. Looking for a big win for the Seahawks against the Niners, Sounders playoff game, Kraken got a lot of matchups coming up, and some Mariners offseason news. So again, guys, thank you so much, and we will see you in the next episode.
See ya.